So contact, this is how you get a hold of me. So that phone number, 925-876-4357, is the best phone to call me on. That's my voicemail's on that, text is on that, and live is on that. I usually have that with me all the time. If you don't remember it, 876-HELP. So you can always do that. This guy wants to add. Okay. Or my email is another way. And I'm usually on that all the time, get back to you. So you can do that. My website, we'll talk more about that a little bit. But the main thing here is do not call the school. Don't use the school to get a hold of me unless for some reason you have to. Because I'm not on the Outlook, I'm not on the school's website or checking out email and stuff, and I don't pay attention to the phone there. See, I'm used to kind of working separate from the school, and so I like that. So this is much faster than the school, the ways I showed you here. Okay, remember that. If you want to make, I don't have regular office hours, so if you want to talk to me apart from lecture or from class, then we can make an appointment to do that. Have our own little Zoom appointment. So I've done that. So you can set that up with me through email in case you need to talk about something. And everything is recorded on Canvas. You probably know that by now. So your test grades, everything goes there. And there's assignments there and movies there and other things we can talk about. So, description. You can teach human sexuality in a whole lot of different ways, and some teachers are very different than me. We have different approaches. My main emphasis in teaching this class is the subject of intimacy, both emotional and physical. So I take that into account. That's a big part of it, as we'll get into more. And human sexuality is also multidisciplined. And the main emphasis in terms of teaching it is, obviously this is a psych class, so a lot of psychology. There's definitely some sociology, biology, and physiology. No anthropology. I think that's the only ology I don't talk about too much, because most of my experiences with the sex life of people in Contra Costa County, I don't know much about Africa and other places. So I like to focus on what I know about. And so you can take that class, anthro, separately. But lots of psych, soc, biology and physiology might scare you off hearing those if you're not into the science stuff. But believe me, the way I teach it, it's not boring, and it's not anything that they teach in biology and physiology, in the science department, I'm pretty sure, because it's all sexual oriented. So it's fun. It's not boring. This class has a real practical approach. Primarily, the emphasis in psychology is called cognitive behavioral, which we're going to cover in a little bit. So that's the approach. Okay. Any questions about any of that? Oh, okay. We did that already. Other topics we're going to cover: sexual history, sexual anatomy and physiology, like I just said, gender issues, sexual orientations, sexual problems, things that are problematic, cures, and then at the end, the dark side, sexual assault and domestic violence. That's at the end of the semester in May. So that's kind of the general areas. I think sexual addiction's not in there, and porn's not in there. I would put that in there too. I've added that now. But those are the general topics. But the main guts of the class, I would say, is the first thing: intimacy, self, emotional, and sexual. So we're going to cover that in a lot of detail. Mo. Yes, explicit videos I show sometimes in class. So if you have trouble with explicit sexual, seeing people, naked people making love or any of that, you don't have to watch it. You don't have to attend it. You don't have to go there. It's not going to affect your grade. It affects your sex life, but it won't affect your grade. So don't. It's okay. Explicit sexual language is used. That you can't escape if you're going to attend this, because I don't censor my mouth too much. I can talk medical terms, Latin, and street talk, and slang. So, so if you have trouble with words like fuck, then you better not take this if it's going to offend you. Okay? But if you don't have a problem with that, then it's going to be okay. The language you're going to have to expose yourself to, but the explicit stuff you don't have to see if you don't want to, if you're not comfortable. Any other things I cover my ass about? No. Okay. Little story about the language. When I was teaching earlier, I was trying to watch all my political correctness and not get in trouble with the school. So I didn't use any, cuss words or language like that until my oldest daughter went to UC San Diego, and I sat in on one of her classes. I think it was something about cultural differences or whatever, but the professor was like saying motherfucker all the time, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, I'm going, God, this is UC, and she's talking like that, and I'm worried at saying something at, community college like it's a big deal. I mean, so I said, screw it, I'm just going to talk like she does if I can. So, I mean, I use it with discretion. I'm not just flying off with that language, but I use it sometimes, or a lot of times, I don't know. So you're warned. It says warning, and the reason for that is because I don't want any stuff coming back from the dean. I've learned to be very under the radar a lot. I don't get into trouble with the administration, and so this is a way to protect myself. So because you won't, go. You know how he talks. This guy, this teacher. You don't have to attend. Change the channel. It's not required. So we're covered. Right? Right. Required reading. Generally, as far as reading goes, I don't know when, but I used to just teach with one book. Intro to Human Sexuality. I got a whole bookcase of them over there. Big, thick textbooks, $100. And I hardly taught anything that was in there. Maybe the anatomy, physiology part, but that's it. So I thought, this is ridiculous having people buy a book that I hardly use at all. So I stopped using that, and I started using books that I've written over the years, and they're totally on point. I mean, they're like covered in the class. There's no, areas that I don't cover. So the first one, love yourself, first step to relationships, I wrote in 1997 or 2000, I don't know, I can't remember now, but I wrote that book primarily because I wanted my daughters to know what's in those books. I wrote it for them. I didn't think I was going to write this big bestseller book. It just, stuff that has to do with self-love. And I wanted them to know it. But I also teach it in class. So that's the first book you're going to deal with. Second one is creating the intimate connection. This book I published in 1980-83. It was a big book, national. It was called Beyond the Marriage Fantasy then. It wasn't called this. So, I sold it to the academic publisher, changed the title. So that book's still relevant. There's a few changes, but it's still very relevant to today. So we'll go through that one. And then the third book is a biggie, More Than Just Sex. It's all the sexual stuff, physical stuff. And I wrote that book in 1990. And so if you order that book, be careful that you don't get the older copy from 1990. And it's like $13. I mean, it doesn't have about 5 chapters that the book I want you to get has. So it's much better. I rewrote this book, More Than Just Sex, because it became obsolete, really. I mean, I wrote it before the internet. I wrote it before there was Viagra. So it started to become kind of old. So I redid it and wrote it for more academic than mass public. So that's critical. And your final is based on that book. So it's critical to the class. So those are 3 books. You can get them in the ways I wrote you about, that letter. You can get them from the publisher. You can order from Amazon. You can order, from the school. They have them, I assume. So whatever works for you. So those are the 3 textbooks. And I don't make a lot of money on this, okay? It's not like I'm scamming it, trying to get some money here. It's not like, royalties are not that much, believe me. Any questions about the books? If you don't read the books, it'll probably impact your grade pretty good. But you probably, pretty hard to get an A if you don't read the books, or even a B. Just heads up on that. Okay. Cognelia, that's the publisher. Now, how I teach this class, generally, is lecture, me lecturing to you, and PowerPoint slides that go along with it. So I kind of integrate PowerPoint with that. But not all the stuff I talk about is on PowerPoint, although most of it is, because some people are pretty addicted to PowerPoints. And as far as PowerPoints go, I mean, you don't have to write down everything that's on the PowerPoint. And especially doing this, because you can refer back to the recording if I went too fast for you. So you have that backup. Because usually in the classroom, that's not recorded, so people get all tight when I go fast or cut through it. And you don't have to have it all. And a lot of it's back up in the book. So you got a lot of coverage. What else? PowerPoint discussions. Hopefully we'll have some discussions in this class. It makes it more fun instead of me just talking. I like interaction to a point. A lot of YouTube videos, not DVDs anymore, and we're not going to have any speakers this way. So, and like I said, all the classes are recorded. And I'll, give you a link. It'll be on YouTube, and you can just go right to it. The only warning about it, sometimes I have technical problems, and it doesn't work, and then you lose it, and you won't have it. So you can't be for sure on everything. But I think I got the technology down now pretty good. I hope. Oh, come on. So the basic assignments in the class is read the 3 textbooks. That's pretty essential. And as far as reading goes, I don't tell you how to read. I don't go, you have to read chapter 6 by next weekend or something. I'm not going to give you a schedule and tell you that. You can read the book however you want. You can read it all at one time. You can read it before you take the midterm. You can read it as we go and stay, current with it. However, whatever works for you. That's how I look at it. But reading is critical as far as exams go. But how you do it is up to you. Personal sex history paper. Whoa. Yes, you have to write this. You don't have to, but you want to. You have to write something in this class. That's a kind of school curriculum requirement. So I have you write this history paper about your sex life up to this point. I don't grade it. I don't say, well, this is A, sex life, or C. I don't know how you could do that. Everybody's different, unique. So it's not a grade. It's pass, fail, or credit, no credit. If you don't turn in a sex history paper at the end of the semester, you don't get 50 points. It will bring a grade down. You go from an A to a B, or B to a C, or, you know. So it's like a midterm. You know, like you're just blowing off a midterm, 50 points. But I don't even read it. Man, you know how many sex life histories I've heard in my career? Forget it. Oh, wow, I want to hear it. No, I don't care. I just scan it to make sure that you did it. Okay? Because some people try to cheat and they paste, you know, when they copy paste. They use a girlfriend's history paper and the gender's different. I go, what's that? The transgender? No. You know, so don't play games. You know, make sure people don't try to get out, you know, in it. And what else about it? I'm not grading the English or all that stuff. I just want to see that you did it. And it's for you. It's not for me. Doing that is helpful for you psychologically to integrate what you're going to hear in this class. And it's going to open doors. And so it's a way to get it out. And a lot of people get, you know, after the fact go, God, that was really good. I really got something out of that. Taking a look at how you got to be where you are right now. Because you all have a history. And I don't care if you're a virgin. You know, some people go, well, I haven't had sex yet, so how do I write about sex history? No, there's so much more to sex than just intercourse. Okay? So it's, you know, there's a lot of things that you can write about. I will pass out a guideline of questions to ask yourself, areas to explore if you're not sure. So, but it's not required. And you just write it how you want. I'm not going to like have, well, it has to be a certain way. Except, well, we'll get to that in a minute. And then another thing that you can do is extra credit. If you, that's, I'll talk about that more in a minute too. Oh, yeah. So extra credit, like the history paper, has to be 5 pages. Double spaced. Okay? If you want full credit, 5 pages. Not 4.5, not 5 complete pages. You know, people try to, you know, do all kinds of stuff to not write 5 pages. I don't know why. But, you know, they do triple space. It's amazing and stuff that they do to try to get around that. And I just give it back. I say, you don't get credit. You don't do what I tell you. It's not going to, I mean, I like being an asshole about it, but it's like, if you can't follow that, then what's the deal, you know? It's like, I don't like people trying to get around like that. So 5 pages, I'll tell you more about that to get credit. Your history paper is the exact same thing. 5 pages minimum. You can write 20 pages if you want, but the minimum is 5. And of course, everybody shoots for the minimum. You get credit. And both these papers will be turned in, either extra credit or history paper, the class before the final. So that's when it's due. Don't give it to me earlier. So, and then doing it virtually, people, you'll send me it somehow, either email or through Canvas, or email's best. So, yeah, that part's written for when we're in the classroom. Grading. Now, some people had a little confusion about attendance. Hey, you don't do that. There's some issues with it, confusion about attendance. Okay, I don't grade about attendance. Okay, can you want to? It's out of control. Stay there. So somebody said, how many points you get for attendance? Or if I don't attend, do I lose points? There's no points involved with attendance. I don't care about attendance. This is college. This is in high school. So after a few classes, I'm not going to be dealing with roll anymore. I need to do it initially, see who's here so I can turn in the census roster. But after that, I don't care. Attendance to me is what? It's where you learn. If you're involved in the class, if you participate, if you ask questions, you know, that gives me a sense of who you are. I know you. And if you put energy into the class, and I can tell, It's a little harder virtually, but if you're asking me questions, and I'll recognize it and connect you to that. So it gives me kind of I guess a subjective grade or something. So if you're on the borderline between two grades and you're only 2 points away from a higher grade, I'm going to bump you up because you participated, you're involved. So it's kind of a subjective thing. But on paper, I don't get involved in it. So the people that are just watching the recordings of this and they're not doing the meetings live, they're going to miss out on that piece, but it's not going to affect their grade. Yeah, really. It's all numbers, the grade. That doesn't apply. That's for the school. I'm not going to drop you if you miss 3 times. God, I keep skipping to that. Anyway. So class being involved. There's 2 midterms, as you can see. Each one's worth 100 points. They're true, false, multiple choice questions. They're worth 50 points. Worth 100 points each. And they're not cumulative. They're based on the material covered. And then the final is 200 points. So it's like 2 midterms. So it's pretty impacting on your grade. And then you have the history paper, which I assume you'll do, which is 50 points. So that the total number of points is 450 in the class. And like I say, if you are borderline on the grade, if you do extra credit, I'll bump you up, or you participate a lot. So that's how the grading's done. It's pretty much mathematical. There's a scale, and that's based on percentages. So 90% and above, 80 B, basic thing like that. So let's say you got you're 2 points away from a higher grade. That's where you're in the range where I could bump you if you do something. If you're 20 points from a higher grade, then you can't help that. Nothing will work for that. Or 10. Okay. Extra credit. Now you're going to probably ask me this a bunch of times. So extra credit is writing another short paper, like I said, 5 pages, and you write about something that's relevant to the class, which there's lots of things, that you experience outside the classroom. So if you see a movie, or you read a book, or you go to a play, or something that's relevant, and then what I'd want you to write about is how that experience impacted you. I don't want to hear what it's about. Okay? Don't tell me the plot lines and stuff of a movie. I want to know, did it upset you? Did it turn you on? Did you get excited? Did it how did it affect you? What was your takeaway from it emotionally, experientially? Music. Some people do songs. I play some music that you can write about how if it affects you on that level. Some pretty powerful songs out there in this area. Yeah, anything. 5 points. So I would say extra credit would be insurance. And when do you take out insurance? Before the accident or after? You take it out before, if you're smart. So doing extra credit is a way to have insurance in case you land really close to the next grade. If you're on the border, and then you can get bumped up, because you don't know where you're going to land at this point, and you won't know until the end, pretty much. So it's a way to cover yourself. But a lot of people want to do it after the fact. Too late. Can't do it after the fact. The grades are in. Sorry, you should have done it earlier. But a lot of people don't listen, and they have to have an accident, if you get what I'm saying. I've already been over this. Right. You can read this. I don't go over that. Students with disabilities. I think the only thing I can do for students with disability thing is to tell me that you need more time, because that's where, when, like, you know, I give you usually an hour for the midterms and 2 hours for the final. Now, if you want to have more time, then I can change the timing, the settings on it. But other than that, I mean, you're not in a classroom, so that's not an issue. So let me know if that's something that you'll need ahead of time. Okay, this is policy of the school, but if you don't take the final exam because of your car broke down or you overslept or, you know, something happened, you can't get an incomplete, basically. We used to be able to give people incompletes and then they'd make it up later in the summer or something. Can't do that anymore. The only way you can get that is if there's some medical emergency and you have to get permission from the dean. So they're being really tight about that. So I just want to let you know. Some people just walk away. They don't tell me, they don't drop the class, they don't do anything. I don't know, they just disappear. Except that their name is still on my roster. If a person's name's on the roster and they didn't take the test, then they get an F, period. And that's sad. I mean, it's like you got that on your record, an F. You didn't even take the class, practically. So don't think you can just go off and not take care of business. That's part of college itself, dealing with the business part. So just give you a heads up on that, because they get pissed off when they get an F and they go, I didn't even go to that class. I wasn't in the class. Yeah, but did you drop it? Did you go through that? No. Well, talk to the school. Don't talk to me. Okay, I think that's it, isn't it? Okay. Yay, there you are. Anybody need that? No. Okay. All right, questions? You gotta have some questions.
I have a question. So extra credit, you're just allowing the one paper to
One time, yeah.
One time, got it.
Don't get more credit by doing more papers. It's one shot.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And for the extra credit, if it's like, is it one book or one movie, or if it's like say you read like a series or something and you want to talk about, because it's just about your feelings, right? So even if it's like multiple things, is that okay, or is it supposed to be focused on like one thing?
Usually it's just one thing, unless they're connected or something, you know, somehow. But, you know, one movie, one book, one song, one play.
Will you be taking rough drafts for the extra credit paper, or like will you send it back with your team?
No, the only thing that would be good on that is that you ask me if it's okay, or, you know, run it by me. You know, say, this is a book I'd like to write about. Does this make sense? But the writing part I don't care about. I mean, that's really not critical. So how many of you are in psych majors, or are we into majors yet? Okay. Well, this will definitely help you, I think. Soc majors, any of those? No? Okay. These people down below here, you need to turn your cameras on. I don't like looking at your names. Lindsay, Valerie, Christina, Caitlin. Hello? Yeah, turn on the camera. It's more fun. Ah, you're alive. Good. All right. What else can I tell you? This class can have a pretty powerful impact on some people. psychologically, emotionally. And if that's the case, I understand that, and you can talk to me about it. Maybe there's alternatives. I had one student last semester that just really had a hard time with the history paper. It brought up too much post-traumatic stress issues with her, trauma. And I said, well, if you don't want to write that paper because it upsets you, which I understand, write about why you don't want to write the paper. That's okay too. But, you know, stuff happens in this class because it's not something that's just kind of so academic that it doesn't relate to your personal life now and in the future. So, you know, just want to let you know that. It affects relationships if you got one going. All kinds of things happen. But I try to make it real. I'm not what I would call an academic teacher. And what that means, I'm not going to give you statistics, studies, other people's theories that much. You know, not a lot of that. It's more about what's real, pragmatic, that I have developed over the years. And it's kind of like here to you. And it's useful. I don't know how else to describe it. It's a lot of emotional, a lot of values. People get upset about things and can get in here. Like when we talk about abortion, well, not abortion, gay marriage, that was a big upset thing for people. They have certain values and they get reaction, you know. So I understand that. So I try to respect the differences. Not being in the classroom kind of helps in that. Because if people start mouthing off, I just kick them out of the class. You know, the stupid high school mentality, I call it. This is not high school. I don't treat you that way. You're adults. That's how I look at it. You don't act like adults, history. Boom, out. I try to have fun, too. I don't want to make it sound so heavy. Oh. My pet peeve. See. But we're not in the classroom, so I'm not so worried about that. Shut up. Off. All right, what else do I want to say? Okay. Historically, since you don't know me, and we're going to spend some time with each other, you might want to know where I'm coming from. First of all, academically, I spent 2 years at Long Beach City College, down south, because I didn't want to go to Vietnam. But I also wanted to go to school. And so I spent 2 years there, which is a lot like LMC. That's the way it was. Anyway, I was a junior college transfer, so I got a second shot and I got into Cal. So I got out of LA and came up and went to Berkeley, which was definitely a high point in my life. I loved it. And my major was biochemistry, because you have to declare your major when you're a junior college transfer. So I thought biochemistry, you know. Well, I didn't do so well. The first quarter, I did terrible. And so I changed my major to sociology. And that was great, loved it. And then majored in psychology my senior year, double majored. And that became really important. And I liked that a lot. And then I went to try to get into a 4-year school, graduate school. Didn't get into any except Cal State Hayward, otherwise known as East Bay. So I went in there and I didn't really know what I was going to do. So it always bugs me when if people ask you, what are you going to do? You know, what are you going to do with your life? What's your career? What are you going to do? I always loved that. Well, my old answer was, I'm going to be a dentist. That's why I was in biochemistry. You know, I hated it, but what are you going to do? You know, So when I went into grad school, I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew it was in the area of psychology, but that's a lot of options. So I tried to figure it out when I was there, and so I ended up being a marriage and family therapist, and that was it. And then I became a licensed, therapist, and that was what I did most of my career, 45 years. So what makes me different than any other therapist, teachers a lot, is that I come from clinical. That's my experience. It's mainly clinical, working with lots and lots of people and in all these psychological issues. I didn't study and do academic things, and so there's a difference, and you'll see that in the approach. So that's what I bring to the classroom, a lot of that learning. That was my laboratory of what worked with helping people. And not that this class is going to be therapy, because I don't want to do any of that, but it's going to be therapeutic whether I try to do it or not. You're going to get a lot out of that, and you take away, and it's going to affect you. You can use it or not use it. It's up to you. So that's academics. The sex part came in accidentally, really. It was just walked in the door kind of thing. I didn't really pre-plan that. I fell in my lap, basically, which I'll tell you about later. And then I started teaching this class at DVC in 1976. I was a kid. I was just like the students. And then I taught there for a long time. There it's called Health Science 140. They don't call it sex. And so it's a little different at DVC. Then you got to teach sexual transmitted diseases, birth control, a lot of health things. It's not so psychological like it is now. And how I got into teaching at LMC was I knew Estelle Davy, who's been there forever in psychology. And I asked her one time at a party or something, I said, Estelle, why don't they have a sex class at LMC? God, how many we have at the DVC? 6? I mean, it's ridiculous. But at LMC, they didn't have one. And she says, well, would you like to teach it? And I go, yeah, sure, absolutely. I know they have sex in Pittsburgh and Antioch. What the hell? It's like, and so I ended up fitting in at LMC. It was a lot better because it was psychology instead of being in a health science department, which I was not. That wasn't where I was coming from. So I've been there ever since. I taught at Cal State Hayward, upper division. This class at East Bay is upper division. It's called Sociology of Marriage and Sex. They still teach it. So you're going to get that. Graduate school, I taught at JFK University a bunch. That's more teaching them how to be therapists, not so much like how I'm going to teach here, but that's another thing. That's kind of it. And any other questions? No? Okay. I'm sure there's something I left out. Oh well, I can't think of it. Yeah, can't think of it. Okay, it'll come to me. Jessica, you have your hand up, or you forgot to take it down? It's up. You might want to take it down. Okay. Okay. Well, are you ready? Let's go. We got a lot to do.
Is there anything we should do to prepare for the next class that we have on Wednesday, like reading?
No, well, you can read the book if you want.
Which one should we start with?
It's called Learning to Love Yourself.
Okay.
Mm. Everybody see that? Yes, no?
Yes. I see.
Yeah, I don't see
Yes.
either. Okay. 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 So first off, I want to describe the approach to this class psychologically. Oh, I forgot. I know I knew what I forgot. Sorry, I gotta stop for a minute. Two things. One is I have a YouTube channel, and on my YouTube channel are videos of they're like 10 minutes, and they're like clips on specific topics that we're going to cover, a lot of them, especially in the beginning. And so that's another place for you to, let me get out of this. I'll just go to it, show you. Oh, we didn't do roll. Let's do roll. Not on it. Okay, is Taylor here? Nope. Garrett?
Here. Here. Sorry, I
Mi-
didn't unmute it.
Oh, wait. Michael?
Here.
Naomi?
I'm here.
Harmony? Lindsay?
I'm gonna tell him.
Right here.
You said Annalia?
Anna Lilia.
Annalia, okay.
Yep.
Ashley? Hello? Ashley? Oh, she's going to the other class here. Diana?
I'm here.
Suzette? Jonathan? Aaron? Jasmine? Colin?
Here.
And I? Austin?
Yeah.
Rolando? Ashley Johnson? Jessica Johnson's here.
I'm here, and Jacqueline Johnson's here as well. I don't know why she's not on the list.
Well, if she's not on the list, that doesn't mean she's in the class. So she might want to take that up with the school. I can add you. That's not going to be a problem.
Yeah,
So-
she's here with me, but we scheduled at the same time. So I know she has your class, but you had her down for Tuesday and.
Oh,
Yeah. So if you could, if that would be great if you could switch her. That, but we
okay.
could
Just,
talk after.
yeah, or send me an email. That'd be good. Okay. So Jessica's here. Ashley? Is that who we were just talking to? No. Marilyn Knight. Jacob Lawrence. Yes, Lee.
Here.
Jeanette. Ruben Martinez.
Here.
Caitlin.
Here.
Madison.
Here.
Valerie. Valerie.
Here.
And Ren. Roshana. Mizuki. Nayla. Amber. Isabel. Hallie.
Here. It's Haley.
Haley. Okay. Andrea. Zachary.
Here.
Danny. Elizabeth.
Here.
Tanya.
Here.
Elena. Kana, I don't know. That one. Jaden. Michaela.
It's Michaela, but I'm here.
Michaela. And Natasha. Lucas.
Here.
Good. Okay. Phew, God, I wouldn't want to do that every day. Oh, yeah, that's what I was doing. Let's go to the website first. So this is the website, and it has a bunch of stuff on it. There's the books. Anybody want to see? There's the 3 books. So the one with the little kid is the one you want to start reading, and then wait you go like that. So the main thing for you guys probably will be blogs. You want to read blogs that I wrote. And every topic here is relevant to the class. So like this right here, too powerful, blah, blah, blah. There's questions about that on the final. All this is relevant. And that's coming up. We'll be talking about that one. Anyway, you get the idea. So that's a source of information you can read about that's relevant in addition to the books. And then these are some videos that are relevant, everyone, these. But you can also get this on YouTube, on the channel, either way. So that's that. Where's the link to that? Oh, I don't see it. Oh, here it is. So over here is that. That's the YouTube link, and then it takes you to the channel. So, videos. So again, the just additional relevance to, on topics. Okay, so that's that. Where were we? Okay, so back to cognitive behavioral approach. Says you'll learn as we go. In psychology, there are different approaches to everything, like different schools of thought. And one of those is what's called the cognitive behavioral approach. I've pretty much done this approach my whole career, both therapeutically and academically. It's very popular now. Now, what does it mean? I'm doing it. Well, cognitive is just basically has to do with the mind, with thinking, mind, what's going on mentally. And then behavior, well, so what's that mean? The mind. Specifically, it has to do with beliefs and values and attitudes that you were brought up with. All of you have been programmed with beliefs, attitudes in your mind from your little kid to now. Culture programmed you, your parents, everybody programmed you with these beliefs. And depending on where you grew up and what your culture was or your ethnicity, you got different spins on the same topics or different. So someone who grew up in, let's say, Macon, Georgia versus Berkeley would have very different programming because of their experience. Not right or wrong or anything, good or bad, just different. So that is a part of your sex history, that programming that you're going to learn about. Behavior is different in that it has to do with what you do. It's not thinking, it's about action. It's how you interact. You know, how do you communicate? How do you listen to somebody? How do you make love to somebody? How do you have conflict? It's the interactive part. So you have the cognitive, which is the belief stuff, and then the behavior is what you do and put into action. So that's two things on that. And your behavior is learned similar to where you grew up, you know, what you had modeled for you by your parents, what they taught you either directly or indirectly. Okay. So you understand that? Good. Now, what do these two have in common? Raise your hand. What do they have in common? Wow, I just told you. Okay. They're both learned. They're not genetic. They're not, you know, you learned them from different sources, from what you saw, from what they told you. Right? So what's the significance of that, you might think? Why is that a big deal for you? It's because they can change. Your behavior and your attitudes can change. They're not set in concrete. And they can change regardless of your age. Maybe you've heard people say, well, I'm 50 years old, you know, I can't teach an old dog new tricks, you know, it's just the way I am. You ever hear that? That's BS. That's bullshit. You put a fire into somebody's ass, they'll change real fast if they're motivated. I've seen it many times. They have to be motivated though. So I don't care how old you are, you can change. If you want to, and you know what to do. Because some people get all hung up on that. Some people also say you can change regardless of gender. You ever hear that? Well, I'm a guy, I don't do that. That's what women do. I don't do dishes or whatever. You ever hear that? You know, guys do this, women, you can't. Do you know how much change has occurred in my lifetime relative to just gender roles? what women do, men do. Incredible. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about gender, because we cover that a little bit. So that's what the beauty of this approach is, that you help people change. That's what I've done for a career. And the way I do it is changing either attitudes or behavior or both. Now, I've used the word intimacy a few times, and I'm going to use it a whole lot. But let's define it a little bit. When you hear the word intimacy, what did you think about that? What did that usually mean to you?
Closeness.
Mm-hmm.
Connection.
A connection, okay.
Become one unit.
One.
Vulnerability.
It's part of it. Yeah, definitely vulnerability.
Being connected to someone.
In what way?
Intimate ways.
Emotionally.
Okay. What?
Think of love languages.
Mm-hmm. How people express love, their different language. I'm gonna be running out of juice. Okay, hopefully. Much time to. %. I'll make it. No, maybe I won't. I got a new computer. This is the first time I've been using this. Zoom burned out my other one. Okay, I'll be right back. I gotta get the power cord thing. Otherwise it's gonna die. We don't want that.
Commercial break.
Yes. Let's turn the light off. Okay. So usually when people talk about intimacy, they usually are referring to sex. If they had intimate relations, they usually say sex. They're sexual. That's what it implies. And it is, that is a type of intimacy. But there's two other types that people don't talk about too much. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to cover all three. So the first one is self-intimacy. That's where we start. And self-intimacy, generally speaking, has to do with how you are connected to what you feel, and do you project it or express it externally? Are you in sync? Honest, true, authentic. A lot of psychobabble there. Okay, so like if you work retail, if any of you work retail, you learn to not be intimate. You learn to keep your mouth shut about how you feel. You know, you don't tell the customer, you know, you're really pissing me off right now. You know, that wouldn't work. It's like, so you, oh yes, you know, you hide the truth and you put on this false front, which I understand in retail. But in a relationship, that's not good. So we're going to talk about that. And basically, it's an essential ability to have an intimate emotional relationship. You can't be in love, you can't be turned on, you can't have any of that over time if you don't have the self-intimacy. If you're disconnected from yourself emotionally, there's no way you can form an intimate relationship. That's why you can't fall in love, you can't be intimate with an alcoholic or drug user. It's impossible because they're not there. They're numbed out. So, you know, any of the drug stuff, behaviors that block emotions make intimacy impossible. So that's first intimacy. The second one is emotional. And we're going to spend a lot of time on that. This is where intimacy is created emotionally between two people who are committed and trust each other. It's created. It doesn't just happen. But to create that type of relationship requires knowing attitudes and beliefs and behaviors that most people in our culture are not taught. Most people don't have a clue to what that means. They just get in it and then it turns to shit and they wonder why. It was great in the beginning, but then, no. So one of the things you're going to get out of this class, you make it to May, is you're going to know how to create emotional intimacy. You know what creates it and sustains it. You'll learn that from me. Now it takes two. The other person needs to do it too, but at least one of you does. And if you like great sex, you got to have emotional intimacy. It's a requirement. So you can see where a lot of sexual relationships and long-term relationships turn to being boring or blah, everybody complains about it because they're not emotionally intimate. You know, as I like to say, you can't go from being roommates in one part of the house and then go in a bedroom and all of a sudden you have great sex. Don't work like that. It's not a light switch. You'll see. And then there's sexual intimacy. So you have self, emotional, sexual. Now, sexual intimacy is when you combine the sexual behaviors and act with emotional intimacy. It's in the context of an emotionally intimate relationship. That's sexual intimacy. Because obviously you can be sexual without any intimacy. Yeah, you can do that. Wham bam, thank you, ma'am. But it's not. There's no quality to that. It gets old. And the best example of that in our culture is pornography. It's totally not about intimacy. It's just sex. And it gets old. Okay. I just said that already. So the main focus of this class is going to be on sexual intimacy. And I'm going to talk, a whole lot about it. You're going to learn a lot about it. And we'll also just talk about sex too, but mostly this. Now, how much of that did you already learn? Did you learn about this? Sexual, when you had high school sex or whatever they do? What did they teach you in high school? Or junior high?
In high school and junior high, I feel like it was more just the biology of how things work, not anything about intimacy. But I think from experience, I know I've learned about emotional intimacy and how that can make like the sexual intimacy way more, impactful or better. You enjoy it way more.
Exactly. So my assumption is that none of you know about this from any real, way. So the thing I'm not going to teach you about is reproduction. I'm not going to talk about that. I assume you already know about that. You know where babies come from, you know how they're made, usually they cover that, or how you don't want them. I'm not going to get into that. What I'm going to talk about is what creates sexual pleasure, psychologically and physically, and what gets in the way of it. So that's the emphasis. It's all about sexual pleasure, intimacy, closeness, turn on, sustain. I'm not going to, talk about one night stands. I don't care about that. But the other one, that's where I go. Okay? So that's an overview of what we're going to cover. Now, the sexual intimacy part we cover later in the class, later in the semester. Because to me, you got to lay the groundwork for that. You got to have the other conditions. Because there was a time when I just taught sexual intimacy and didn't talk about the other two, especially the self-love one. So, okay. So let's start that. So learning to love yourself, that's the topic. That's what we're going to focus for a while. Now just looking at that, I asked why do people have to learn how to love themselves? Why don't you just love yourselves? Why do you have to teach somebody? Some people believe that maybe. Anybody know? Why you have to take a class or read a book? Why don't you just love yourself, God damn it? Anybody know? No?
Because our environments sometimes don't allow us to believe that we deserve it.
Exactly, yeah. The environment doesn't support it for some reason. And so you learn how not to love yourself. So we're going to have to reverse that. But our environment, whether it was your childhood or whether it was school or whatever it was, wasn't conducive to learning about it. No one gave you permission. In fact, they'd probably put you down. So in order to have a loving relationship in a marriage or a long-term relationship with somebody, you need to have that self-love part for yourself. And I'm sure you've heard the psychobabble. How's it go? You have to love yourself before you can love somebody else. You ever hear that? What the hell does that mean? It drives me crazy when people say that. I love you, Dan. I'm so in love with you. Let's go make love. It's like, what does that mean? See, one of the things I don't like is psychobabble. And my field is full of it. People say things and they go, what? It sounds nice, but what does that really mean in any kind of reality? I ask, how do you love yourself? What does that mean? That's a nice phrase. Just go love yourself. Have a good time. Do you know what that means? Not usually. So I like to make it real grounded, not so you have some vague notion of what that means. So loving yourself is nice, but what's reality around it? I know a lot of people do things that aren't very loving to themselves, as we'll explore. And usually when people answer that question in a classroom, they'll usually say, well, you need to respect yourself. That sounds good. Now, how the hell do you do that? See, respect yourself. That's another one of those vague phrases. I like it real pragmatic. When you respect yourself, you do X. Accept yourself. You ever hear that? So what's that mean? If you accept yourself, what's that about? Anybody know?
You let yourself feel your emotions and accept what they are. Be okay with it.
That's a piece of it. That's an important piece of it. But what it usually means is you don't judge. Usually there's two options: judgment, acceptance. Most people get all over their shit about it. They're all critical. Judgment. That's not loving yourself. When you beat yourself up like that, yell and scream at yourself, that's not loving yourself. Now, acceptance doesn't mean you like it. I'm not saying that, but you don't yell and scream at yourself. Give yourself a break. It took me a long time to learn that and apply it to behavior. When I played tennis, I used to be terrible. I played a lot of competitive tennis. And I'd yell and scream at myself when I fucked up. Dan, what a stupid shot. I can't believe you did that. That's not loving yourself. But I used to do it. And maybe in other areas too. Same thing. So that's what I mean by pragmatic. What do you do instead? So acceptance usually means the lack of judgment. The critical, which we're going to really dive into later. I just said that. Yes, Jessica.
Hi, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that if I leave now because I have an appointment, the class is from 11 to 12:20, right? Am I okay to leave?
Yeah, you can leave.
Is it from 11? I just want to make sure this
No, technically it's from 11 to 12:20, but you know, sometimes I go over, so.
okay. I just wanted to make
But-
sure because
Yeah,
I can hang out for a few more minutes, but then I have an appointment. I apologize.
it's okay.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's leave it there. So learning to love yourself is, in this culture, as somebody said earlier, is a big challenge, and it is, and we'll talk about it. So we'll pick up on Wednesday. All right? So if you have any questions or want to, you can email me later, and I'll get back to you. Otherwise, I'll see you Wednesday. Have a good day. Be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No worries. Okay.